Allahu Akbar, justice has been served. That was the statement from the Indian military early this morning when they launched Operation Sindoor. New Delhi fired missiles at least 9 targets in neighboring hated Pakistan, causing the country to close its airspace, and all domestic and international flights had to stop. And not to be outdone, the Pakistani military announced that they had shot down 2 Indian Air Force planes. The Pakistani Prime Minister issued a stark warning that the nation of Pakistan and its armed forces know very well how to deal with enemies. The enemy will never be allowed to succeed in their vile objectives. Now the question is whether a full-scale conflict will erupt between 2 nations that both possess nuclear weapons. India and Pakistan share an unbreakable bond in history, born from the same country. Yet the 2 neighbors have fought relentlessly since their independence, with the focus being a remote, desolate, mountainous region. Why is that? And are India and Pakistan inevitably headed for a new conflict? This is Kashmir, one of the most strategically important regions in the world, where 3 powerful nations clash: India, Pakistan, and China. China attacked and took control of this piece of land from Kashmir, infuriating India, and this land was ceded by Pakistan. India and Pakistan control these pieces of land, but also claim sovereignty over more areas. That explains why Kashmir is the center of a brutal conflict over disputed borders. So let's go back to the time when these borders were drawn, in the mid-1800s. India was a collection of hundreds of provinces and states under the rule of the British Empire. A century later, India gained independence. The British were forced to leave and hastily decided to divide the region into 2. These areas would become a new Islamic nation called Pakistan, and this would be the country of India, mainly Hindu. But the separation was not peaceful at all. For centuries, the 3 main religions in India, Hinduism, Islam, and Sikhism, had coexisted. The Muslim League, led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, fought hard to separate into its own nation of Pakistan, fearing that power would fall into the hands of the Hindus. The Indian National Congress, led by Mr. Nehru, wanted the religions to coexist in a unified nation. A compromise was offered where Pakistan would have more power in a federal India, but it was not accepted by Mr. Nehru. On August 16, 1946, Jinnah called for a nationwide Muslim general strike across India to demand separation. Riots then broke out in Calcutta province, the capital of West Bengal, igniting one of the most painful divisions in history. In 1947, Muslims surged and overwhelmed Sikhs in Punjab province. To avoid responsibility for the worsening chaos, the British Viceroy decided to push forward India's independence date to August 15, 1947, instead of June 1948 as planned. Instead of June 1948 as originally planned, Pakistan and India declared independence successively on August 14th and 15th, 1947, even though the territorial boundaries were unclear. On August 18, 1947, when the border was announced, Muslims had to leave India for Pakistan, while Hindus and Sikhs had to go to India. Throughout August and September 1947, millions of people left, forming long lines of people stretching for kilometers. Disease, chaos. Some people boarded overcrowded trains and became targets for gangs. In the following months, about 15 million people crossed the border. About 1 million never reached their destination. In that chaos, some states had the option to join one of the 2 countries. Usually, the ruling monarchs followed the wishes of the people, but the state of Jammu and Kashmir was different. It was located right along the new border. The majority of the people were Muslim, but it was ruled by a Hindu monarch, and he chose to remain neutral when asked to pick a side. Fearing that the monarch would join India, the Kashmiris rioted in 1947. At that time, armed tribesmen from Pakistan soon got involved, and as a natural consequence, the monarch appealed to India for help in exchange for joining India. That is the reason for the first Indo-Pakistani War in Kashmir. The United Nations Security Council mediated a ceasefire in 1949. This line of control was established. Pakistan controlled this side and India controlled the other side. The United Nations also demanded that Pakistani tribesmen withdraw and Indian troops also withdraw so that Kashmir could vote on its own future. But you know how it is. Pakistan said that because the majority of Kashmiris were Muslim, it should belong to them. India said that Kashmir had been given to them by the Hindu monarch. Neither side would budge. Both sides added Kashmir to their constitutions, and of course, there was no vote. For decades, the two countries continued to tighten their control over Kashmir. In 1971, they clashed for the third time, but in East Pakistan. India helped the rebels demand independence and dealt Pakistan a crushing defeat. This area became a new country, Bangladesh. Pakistan lost its eastern half. Ironically, this made Kashmir more important than ever. It became one of the most militarized places on Earth. India and Pakistan deployed planes, tanks, artillery, and troops along the line of control. And on the political front, India was said to have rigged the elections in 1987. A pro-India party won. Many people were dissatisfied because they felt they had once again been denied the opportunity to vote. Thousands of people took to the streets in Indian-controlled Kashmir to protest the occupation. India responded, it must be said, without any leniency. A people's struggle movement escalated into something very different. Kashmiri militant groups like the Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Front began recruiting young Muslims to target the Indian military. Pakistan saw an opportunity. They introduced a new group, radical Islamic fighters, who would create a Kashmir leaning towards Pakistan. By the mid-1990s, these groups dominated the insurgency. India responded by pouring 500,000 troops into Kashmir. It must be said that this did not bring any more peace. In 1998, India announced that it had conducted 3 underground nuclear tests. Pakistan responded with as many as 5. In short, Kashmir became a tug-of-war between 2 nuclear-armed nations. In 1999, the Fourth War broke out. Since then, Pakistani-backed militant groups have become bolder, operating both inside and outside Kashmir. For example, in 2001, there was the attack on the Indian Parliament building in New Delhi. In 2008, 10 militants killed 174 people in Mumbai. Of course, India was not gentle either. They continued to crack down on protest movements. It was a vicious cycle. The more India cracked down on protesters, the more Kashmiris joined Pakistani-backed groups and carried out actions against Indian forces. The Kashmiris are trapped in this vicious cycle. On February 14, 2019, a lone attacker targeted a convoy of Indian security forces in Kashmir. 45 soldiers were killed. The perpetrator was Adil Ahmad Dar, 19 years old, from Pulwama, Kashmir. His parents said that in 2016, Adil was stopped by Indian police and had his face pushed into the ground. In the same year, his father took a bullet to the leg while protesting. The following year, Adil and his brothers left home to join a radical militant group. 12 days after Adil drove into the Indian military convoy, New Delhi launched airstrikes in northwestern Pakistan. Pakistan also shot down at least 1 Indian aircraft. Both quickly downgraded relations with each other and have since engaged in tit-for-tat actions with increasing intensity. India ordered its citizens to return from Pakistan, closed a major border crossing, and withdrew from a crucial water-sharing treaty that had been in effect since 1960. Pakistan suspended trade with India and expelled Indian diplomats. They said that any attempt to block or divert water resources belonging to Pakistan would be considered an act of war. Both countries also closed their airspace to each other. And then, on April 22nd, a militant group targeted tourists at a popular tourist destination in the Pahalgam Mountains of Indian-administered Kashmir. At least 25 civilians and 1 Nepalese citizen were killed. Pakistan claimed no involvement. India did not publicly blame any group but accused Pakistan of cross-border support. Then, as we know, India launched Operation Sindh, or Balakot, targeting what they called terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and the disputed Pakistani-held part of Kashmir in retaliation for the April 22nd event. New Delhi stated that it did not target the Pakistani armed forces or civilians, that their actions were focused, deliberate, and non-escalatory. India claimed to have shown considerable restraint in its choice of targets and methods. Pakistan condemned this as an act of aggression and vowed to retaliate. We will continue to follow these tense developments. One thing is certain. In the nearly 80 years since their independence, India and Pakistan have fueled this cycle. This is all the more concerning given that the two adversaries possess roughly equal nuclear capabilities, with around 50 missile launchers each, land for land. But deeper than all of that is the desire for choice of the Kashmiri people, a desire that has been brutally denied time and time again. As long as that desire is not addressed seriously and thoroughly, this cycle will continue.